So, over a week ago, Israel attacked Lebanon after they rigged a bunch of pagers and radios to explode across the country. Here we have from NPR. On Tuesday, electronic pagers belonging to members of Hezbollah became small bombs exploding almost simultaneously across Lebanon. The blast killed at least a dozen people, including 2 children, and wounded thousands more, according to Lebanese health authorities. Then, on Wednesday, barely 24 hours after the first synchronized attack, more communication devices used by the militant group detonated across southern Lebanon. The Lebanese Health Ministry reports that the second round of explosions killed at least 14 people and injured several hundred. Hezbollah has blamed Israel for the attack because they did it. And while Israel's military declined to comment, a U.S. official told NPR that Israel privately claimed responsibility for the attack on Tuesday. On Wednesday, Israel Defense Minister Yoav Gallant hinted at the excellent achievements by Israel's military and intelligence branches. He said Israel was at the beginning of a new era in this war. So, these pagers also weren't just used by Hezbollah, they were also used by just regular citizens of Lebanon. And this is essentially a terrorist attack. It is. Because while your intent might have been to, hit Hezbollah members, that's not, what happens if they don't have the pagers and then the bomb goes off? And the way that I believe they did this was that they stuck an explosive to the batteries, or they attached something to the pager, inside the pager, that would overheat the battery to the point that it would explode and injure the person or people around it. And that's the thing, even if this was meant to target members of Hezbollah, you're still going to get a bunch of innocent people injured in the crossfire, like 2 children. You think those 2 children were a part of Hezbollah? No. Do you think thousands of people who were wounded during the first round of attacks were Hezbollah? No. This was a terror attack. It's a disregard for who you're attacking. It's a disregard entirely. They just hoping that they can get some Hezbollah members, even if it's a little percentage, just as long as they got those, that's fine by them. Doesn't matter how many innocents get killed or injured during the process. And that shouldn't be any surprise. How do you think they're gonna go about this, especially when how they treat people like the Palestinians? This is really no surprise, but it's just completely disgusting. It's still completely disgusting that they're doing this. The 2 unprecedented attacks come at a time when ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas in Gaza have stalled, and tensions between Israel and Hezbollah continue to grow. NPR's Jane Afra says the attacks have rattled Lebanon. It's hard to explain just how used to bad things happening in Lebanese are. She told All Things Considered host Ari Shapiro, but this has been largely a conflict involving warplanes, artillery, drones. As a result, Tuesday's attack was especially shocking. Hezbollah fighters, officials, and office staff often used the messaging devices targeted in the attacks for communications. Many of the casualties were Hezbollah fighters, medics, and office workers, but many nearby civilians were also caught in the blast. According to Lebanese Health Minister Here's Abid. Most of the injuries sustained were to the abdomen, legs, face, and eyes. Reuters said it viewed footage that showed many of the pagers buzzing, then exploding as people reached for them. After Hamas attacked Israel last October 7th, Hezbollah fired rockets across the Lebanese border into Israel in support of Hamas. Israel and Hezbollah have been at lower-grade wars since then. The difference is usually, Hezbollah targets are usually military bases, though. That's the difference. When Israel does anything, they just target whoever. And then they just say, well, that was Hezbollah. Israel's enemies, when they target something, usually target the military. They target military targets. They don't just do it indiscriminately. Even that one event where Iran sent missiles over to Israel and they were able to stop a bunch of them. And there was a child who was injured in the process. That the child was next to a military base. It wasn't like they were trying to go after civilians. They were targeting it, and it just so happened that this young girl got injured. Security experts in the region say Hezbollah's communications have been hijacked. Thousands of their operatives are wounded, and this is likely deep suspicion within the group who collaborated with Israel to orchestrate the attack. A Jordanian security expert says Hezbollah might not be in any condition to fight an all-out war with Israel. You don't know the level of infiltration and what next surprise Israel is preparing for you. But also, even though they are slaughtering, I don't understand why Israel is even doing this, because they're already like at war with Hamas, and even though they are slaughtering Palestinians, they're still not able to. They have still not been able to get rid of Hamas. In the we're coming up on a year of this, they still have not been able to get rid of them. Like, they're still at a. I don't know why they're doing this. Like, why they're trying to make all these enemies during this time. Like, you're just gonna spread yourself thin. But they know that the US government is going to back them any way that they can. So, who cares? And it isn't just the pager attacks. It has come down to just straight up missiles being lobbed. Over the last 24 hours, Israel has unleashed a series of airstrikes across Lebanon. This was yesterday at the time of this recording. Hundreds of Lebanese people are dead, many are wounded, and thousands are displaced as they scramble to try to figure out safe areas to get their families to. Calling this part of its new phase of the war on Gaza, the Israeli army said it struck more than 1,000 targets in Lebanon, claiming they were Hezbollah strongholds or military facilities placed in people's homes. Israel has just killed at least 558 Lebanese people. Among the dead are 50 children and 94 women, while about 2,000 people were wounded, the Lebanese Ministry of Public Health said. More than 100,000 people have been forced from their homes in the most ferocious onslaught Lebanon has experienced since its civil war of 1975 to 1990. The first Israeli strikes on Lebanon were reported on Monday at 6:30 a.m., hitting an uninhabited area near the north of Beirut. More than 1,300 strikes on what Israel claimed were Hezbollah military targets followed the attacks are ongoing. Satellite mapping of the strikes by Al Jazeera show attacks across Lebanon, with the highest concentration in the south in the Bekaa Valley, where Hezbollah's influence is considered strongest. Before the attack, some 80,000 phone calls from the Israeli government, from the Israeli army to Lebanese people, predominantly in the south, were reported, urging them to evacuate their homes and find safety. And they always kind of use that to be like, we're the most moral army, because we tell them that we're going to bomb them beforehand. But, like, it still doesn't change the fact that you're bombing them. Like, what are you... It's still disgusting, but they're just like, yeah, but we gave them a heads up. They were like, look, we're going to be bombing your house, we're going to be destroying your livelihood, but we're telling you beforehand, so that's okay, right? Also, that doesn't mean you're still not going to get bombed in some respect. The result was panic, chaos, and bottlenecks, with the main coastal road to the capital, Beirut, gridlocked for several kilometers as residents tried to flee an impending attack. Israel says it is attacking Hezbollah so it can return its displaced citizens to the north. On Wednesday, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant announced their redeployment of forces, resources, and energy towards the north and Hezbollah as the war entered a new phase, seeming to imply the war on Gaza was winding down. I don't think that's what they were trying to say. If they're saying this is a new phase, I think they're just saying, like, oh no, this is going to continue. According to Gallant, this was part of a bid to return 65,000 Israelis he had ordered evacuated in the early days of the conflict in anticipation of Hezbollah attacks on their homes near Lebanon's border. That big Hezbollah attack never happened, but Israel and Hezbollah have been maintaining a steady exchange of fire over Lebanon's southern border since October 2023. Hezbollah has promised to keep up its attacks until Israel reaches a ceasefire agreement with the group's ally Hamas in Gaza. In a news conference on Monday night, Israel's military spokesman did not rule out a land invasion in Lebanon, saying, "We will do whatever is necessary to bring back homes all our civilians in the northern border safely." How dangerous is this? Very. Israel and Hezbollah's alliances could pull other countries in. Israel's ally, the United States, announced it was deploying additional troops to the area, without specifying how many and for what purpose. The U.S. currently has about 40,000 troops in the region. Hezbollah and Iran have worked in tandem since Hezbollah's founding as a response to Israel's invasion of Lebanon in 1982. And we kind of already know the tension between Iran and Israel. So, yeah, it seems like Netanyahu is just trying anything and everything to just start a new world war. And he seems to be successful at it because the United States does not have a fucking backbone and does not push him at all to get a ceasefire deal done. But apparently, he doesn't want a ceasefire deal done anyways until the next 45 days. Now, this comes from Hertz, Netanyahu will not engage in any ceasefire deal and hostage talks in the next 45 days, nor will he accept any diplomatic ideas concerning Lebanon. This comes from September 2020. So this was like 3 days ago. So now it would be like 42, I think. But the thing is, in about 40 days, that's when the US election is. That's when election day is. That is when the next president of the United States will be determined. So, I wonder why Netanyahu, who definitely favors Trump more than the Democratic Party, like Harris and Biden, I wonder why Netanyahu is waiting for that next 45 days. Is there any correlation with that, maybe? Maybe he's hoping that Trump gets in so that Trump will just allow him to do whatever he wants and start the next world war. He has a vested interest in prolonging the war for his own political survival so he can stay out of prison, and making it an election issue that could potentially harm Vice President Kamala Harris. Like, he's just such a fucking loser. And the reason why he gets to be that is because the US, especially the Democrats in regards to this, are spineless cowards who refuse to actually push back on anything. They're just like, oh, you want to send us into war? Like, you want to force our hand into war. You want to completely ignore any of the warnings, want to cross all the red lines, don't want to work out a ceasefire deal. Well, we're just going to give you thousands of pounds, thousands of dollars. I think it's in the millions, actually. But, like, Jesus Christ. It's just completely insane, like, how the United States just does not have a fucking backbone when it comes to shit like this. Like, imagine you have a dog, and your dog, regardless of who it is, you take it on walks, and, you know, someone who's jogging passes by you, and they try to bite at their ankles. And, well, not only do they try to bite it, they actually bite someone's ankles. And they're just, like, tearing into the person. They're just biting as hard as they can, really tearing at the person. And the person who is getting their ankles bit is yelling at you, pleading with you, the owner, to tell your dog to calm down, get their... stop biting their ankle before they, like, seriously cause damage, maybe even kill the person. And you, as the owner of that dog, is just like, look, man, I'm trying to tell him, like, I'm trying to get him to stop doing that, but anytime he does it, I just end up giving him treats. Like, I wag my finger at him, but when he does attack people, I give him all the treats that he could possibly want. Because that's what this is. Israel is essentially like an arm of the US government in the Middle Eastern region, and despite the fact that it just attacks whoever they want, and we don't want them to do that, seemingly, we're still just like, no, we'll still reward them at the end of the day. But I don't know, hopefully, I mean, I say hopefully, but like, we've been a little over 2 months coming up, I believe, from Kamala Harris being the presidential pick after Biden dropped out, and we haven't seen any change in her policy regarding Israel. So I don't know, she can't be worse than Trump, but at the same time, it's just like, how is she better? Like, it just feels like a very small marginal change, but we'll see.